Hi, it's Mrs. Pope, and today we have a short video on nth roots. We're going to simplify and approximate these radicals. So first we want to talk about nth roots. That means whatever the index is, the third root, or here the imaginary square root. And so I just want to talk a little bit about what the possibilities are here. When we have the cube root, we could, let's label this. We should call, this is called the index. This is our index. This is our radicand. And this, of course, the sign is the radical sign. So just so that we can speak in math-ese, radical sign, radicand, and index, so we'll be referring to those. So if we have the cube root of 27, there's a few things we could look at. Of course, the regular, if you just saw cube root of 27, of course that would just be 3. You may also see negative cube root of 27, which would mean take the cube root of 27, then negate it. That would be negative 3. You may also see the cube root of negative 27. And since it's a cube root, you can have a negative inside of the radical without an imaginary number, so this would be negative 3 as well. And you may also see plus or minus cube root of 27. And that would be plus or minus 3. Most often with cubes, you're going to see, this would be the principal cube root. If we're looking for, these are the two you would see the most often. The cube root of 27, cube root of negative 27. Now let's look at square root of 25. The index here is 2, keep in mind. We do not write it, it's just understood, but the index here would be 2. So if I just said find the square root of 25, of course it would be 5. If I said negative radical 25, it would be negative 5. And if I said plus or minus radical 25, that's going to give me plus or minus 5. I can't have negative, the square root of negative 25 under here because it would be an imaginary number. All right. So then example 1 says to simplify. If we have plus or minus 16y to the 4th, we want to simplify that. Now notice we have plus or minus, so that means we need to have an answer, plus or minus. So we're going to have plus or minus this square root of 16. Remember, this breaks down into times square root of y to the 4th. We can break it down. So this would be 4. Y to the 4th divided by the 2 would be y squared. So this just turns into plus or minus 4y squared. All right, B, negative, and we have a radical, and we can leave what's inside here. We just need to take care of the 8, the exponent 8. And remember, we're going to divide it by the index, by 2. So this is going to turn into negative x squared minus 6 to the 8 divided by 2, which is just going to be 4. So our answer, negative x squared minus 6 to the 4th power. All right. Let's see what's next. Fifth root, 243, a to the 20, b to the 25th. Remember, we take the fifth root of 243, then the 20 divided by 5, the 25 divided by 5. So it really breaks down like this, 243, not 5 times, the fifth root times the fifth root of a to the 20 times the fifth root of b to the 25. Fifth root of 243, you can use your calculator for that, would be 3, and then that should say 20. Of course, that's going to be a to the 4th, b to the 5th, because 25 divided by 5, 20 divided by 5. All right, here D, plus or minus radical negative 16, x to the 4th, y to the 8th. So you may be thinking, wait a minute, what are we going to do with this negative under here? I'm going to show you how it would come out. We know it's going to be imaginary. There are no real solutions here because you can't take the square root of a negative number and end up with a real number. So we're actually going to end up with an imaginary solution. And let me show you how it plays out. We have plus or minus square root of course it's negative 16 x to the 4th, y to the 8th, but I'm going to break it down now. Let's take 16 and negative 1. Let's separate those because we know from before this is I, the square root of negative 1. So we've broken that down, and we also still have square root of x to the 4th, square root of y to the 8th. So now I can say plus or minus 4i. The square root of x to the 4th is going to be x squared. The square root of y to the 8th, remember that's a 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And this will be our final answer. So we took that I out by taking this, breaking down the negative 16 into 16 and negative 1. And this is the unit I, the imaginary unit I. So that's what you would do whenever you see a negative under a square root. All right. Last example for today. Surface area of a sphere. So here is the formula, and V is the volume. If the surface area of something is 214.5, find the volume. So we want to figure out what V is. So we're going to see, how do we use this stuff? We're going to plug it all in and solve for V. So my surface area I know is 214.5, which is equal to the cube root of 36 pi V squared. So I'm trying to solve for V. I need to get V all by itself. So first, let's see, how can we get rid of that radical? Well, since we have a cube root, we need to cube both sides. So we are going to cube this. All right, so if you do that, you're going to end up with a pretty big number. I have it here written down, 9869198.625 is equal to 36 pi V squared. All right, we're trying to get V by itself, so let's divide both sides. This is back to basic solving. 36 pi, divide by 36 pi. And if you're using your calculator, you can actually hit divide and hit 36 pi together, and it'll understand what to do. These cancel out, and then you're left with 2.87475. Long number is equal to V squared. Then if we take the square root of both sides, your final answer, 295.40, is equal to the volume. So we've approximated this by putting this in your calculator. Here, you should end up with 295.40. Check me on this number though, which would be your volume. So we've approximated it by taking the square root using our calculator, and just by given the surface area, we can figure out the volume. Thanks for watching, and remember, you are responsible for your own learning.